In this video I'll be checking the recently released 4070 Super and pair it against the 7800 XT. For testing the 4070 Super I have a Zotac twin edge model, while the 7800 XT is an AMD reference design made by Sapphire. Both are quite compact compared to their big brothers, use a dual fan setup and need two power cables, with the 4070 Super having the new connector. When it comes to pricing, the 7800 XT card can be had for 530 euros, while the 4070 Super for 660. For the comparison, I will start with the graphics settings used in each game, followed by side-by-side 1440p runs coupled with the numbers for both 1440p and 1080p resolutions. First, I will start with a batch of ray tracing games. As expected, the AMD card struggles when using path tracing at 1440p even with upscaling enabled, managing averages of 23.5 with 18.91% lows compared to the 4070's 51.9 averages and 43.21% low values. Only at 1080p, the 7800 XT manages to hover above 30 FPS with 1% lows of 29.4 and averages of 36.7, while the 4070 Super delivers an above 60 FPS experience with averages of 79.1 and 1% low sitting around 65 frames per second. In Alan Wake 2, we have the same story as in Cyberpunk 2077. The 7800 XT struggles with path tracing. We have averages of 53.3 and 1% lows of 42.1 for the 4070 Super compared to averages of 28.4 and 1% lows of 19.2 for the 7800 XT at 1440p using upscaling set to balanced. The more expensive card wins again. In GhostWire Tokyo, the 4070 Super enjoys a big lead. This game uses ray tracing, so no path tracing, but the 4070 Super leads by around 40%, with averages of 74.6 and 1% lows of 39 compared to 52.9 and 27.2 for the 7800 XT at 1440p. In Tomb Raider, with ray tracing enabled, the 4070 Super pulls ahead, delivering averages of 89 frames per second at 1440p and 141 at 1080p, while the 7800 XT 70 at 1440p and 101 at 1080p. The internal benchmark doesn't show any 1% lows, and this is why I'm not displaying them. Returnal, another ray tracing game, sees the 4070 Super leading again with averages of 83 and 1% lows of 58 compared to 67 and 39 for the 7800 XT at 1440p. The cheaper card loses again, no surprise here. Even though I have enabled RTE in Resident Evil 4, the 7800 XT delivers really good frame rates, but falls short of catching the 4070 Super. The AMD card delivers averages around 104 frames and 1% lows around 90, while the 4070 Super manages 119 and 102 at 1440p. Both cards deliver a high refresh rate experience. When it comes to Ratchet and Clank, both cards need upscaling when using ray tracing at 1440p. The 4070 Super delivers averages of 74 with 1% lows of 36, while the 7800 XT manages to deliver averages of 44.5 and 1% lows of 27.6. The 4070 Super delivers better experience with everything maxed out in this game, but still can't keep frame rates above 60. In A Plague Tale Requiem with RT enabled, the 4070 Super leads by a big margin. At 1440p, it manages averages of 71.6 and 1% lows of 47.9, while the 7800 XT manages only 51.7 and 32.4. Disabling RT shadows is recommended for both cards to enjoy a smooth experience. In Lords of the Fallen, with everything maxed out, the 7800 XT is close to the 4070 Super, with averages of 68.4 and 1% lows of 49.8, while the other managed averages of 71.6 and 1% lows of 47.9 at 1440p. Avatar 13th of Pandora is an AMD sponsored title that was released at the end of 2023. This game features ray tracing, and at 1440p the RTX 4070 Super leads, delivering averages of 51 frames with 1% lows sitting around 40, while the AMD card manages averages of 40 and 1% lows of 30. This game features frame gen that can be coupled with upscaling to increase frame rate, so I would definitely recommend to do that on both cards. In F123 with ray tracing, the 4070 Super manages to stay above 60 FPS on this track with averages of 70 frames per second and 1% lows of 62, while the 7800 XT manages only 56 frames when it comes to averages and 43.11% lows. To me, RT is pointless in this game. Star Wars Jedi Survivor can be a great looking game with high resolution textures that needs a great amount of VRAM in some areas when maxing it out. In this game, the 4070 Super leads, and at 1440p it manages averages of 67 with 1% low situated at 47.7, while the 7800 XT managed averages of 56.3 with 1% lows of 43. Starting from here onwards, we'll be looking at games with no ray tracing. Atomic Heart is a game with great visuals that doesn't feature any ray tracing, and we see the 4070 Super still leading the 7800 XT. At 1440p the Nvidia card averages at around 122 frames per second with 83.51% lows, while the AMD card manages 108 and 88.1. The AMD card had better 1% values though. The Last of Us Part 1 is the first game where the 7800 XT outperforms the 4070 Super, but only by a small margin. At 1440p, the AMD card delivers 79.2 frames per second when it comes to the averages and 1% lows of 68.5, while the 4070 Super was a bit behind with averages of 75.4 and 1% lows of 65. The cheaper card has its first victory. Total War Pharaoh is another non-ray tracing game that sees the 4070 Super pull ahead, and at 1440p it averages 62.6 with 1% lows of 46.9, while the 7800 XT managed averages of 50.6 with 1% lows sitting above the 30 FPS mark, more precisely at 33.3. This game can be very demanding in some situations. Starfield, an AMD-sponsored title, sees the 4070 Super leading again, albeit by around 5%. At 1440p, the 4070 Super delivers averages of 79.5 and 67.3 1% lows, while the 7800 XT 76.4 and 64.5. Keep in mind the price difference of more than €100. Horizon Zero Dawn is an old game that doesn't use RT but still looks amazing. In this one, the 4070 Super leads again, managing to deliver averages of 167 frames and 1% lows of 102, while the 7800 XT managed averages of 156 and 1% lows of 100. Both cards deliver a high framerate experience at 1440p. In Assassin's Creed Mirage, the 4070 Super leads again. The 7800 XT had dips to below 60 FPS, but neither felt smooth to me. Regardless, at 1440p, the Nvidia card averaged 156 frames per second with 93 1% lows, while the AMD card averaged 115 with 1% lows as low as 46. Let me know in the comments below if this game runs smooth for you, as I had occasional micro stutters when playing on both cards. And there you go, after 18 games tested, what are my thoughts? Well, when it comes to performance, I think there was no doubt that the 4070 Super will outperform the 7800 XT, but to be honest, I wasn't expecting a landslide victory. From all the games tested, in only one game the 7800 XT was ahead by a small margin, and in a few it was close, and those were non-RT games. I would say that the 7800 XT should drop below the $500 mark, but I think that the 4070 Super should drop as well. At the moment, the 7900 XT is not threatening it, as it sits close to €100, at least here in Spain, but I don't know about other markets. The biggest issue that I see for the 4070 Super is that it's a capable card with only 12GB of VRAM in 2024. The consumers will decide if it's a good buy or not. Now let me share my thoughts about the 4070 Super model in hand. It is a good small card, a good fit for small form factor PC cases, and the power consumption is not high. My unit has coil winding and it can be a bit loud, but not like an airplane. The loudness may depend on how many PC case fans you have installed, as this may hide the sound produced by the card's fans. During testing, it didn't get hot, but I have good airflow in the case, and the cooler seems to do a good job at keeping it at okay temps, at least in winter. Oh, and it has RGB as well. If you found the video helpful, click the like button, drop a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel to help it grow.